At a time when many employers are struggling to fill positions, smart businesses are building a workforce by embracing diversity and inclusion. Today, we're talking about tapping into the underemployed workforce. I'm Lisa Smith, and this is Focus on Business. Brian, you've spent much of your professional career championing underemployed folks. And it's something that I also feel very passionate about. Can you tell us what that personally means to you and what you've seen?
You know, when we first started working in this area, when I was part of the Snyder administration, it was because, well, it just seemed like the right thing to do. But what we quickly learned is that there's a lot more than that. There are people that have a lot to offer that often get shut out of opportunity just because the world was built when they weren't at the table and people with disabilities weren't at the table. And so you have to go out of your way to make these things happen. And what's cool now is you see success stories start to accumulate and you can build on those. I remember a few years ago when Justice Bernstein and I were traveling around the state on the My Hidden Talent tour and highlighting people with disabilities that were enjoying success in the workplace and trying to inspire employers to consider hiring them. Well, we came across a really cool example where Gordon Food Service, it's a great West Michigan company, and Hope Network, who helps people with developmental disabilities, they connected a young man named Nathan with an internship, and Nathan he has autism, ended up being very gifted in like warranty audits for their truck fleet, I think it was. And anyway, he was so successful, he ended up saving them some big number. It seems like it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. They hired Nathan. He's been employed there now for many years, and I understand he's even a homeowner today, which is pretty extraordinary in terms of the outcome. But here's the thing is that Nathan got connected with something that really suited his strengths as opposed to just defining him according to his areas of struggle. Now that case got picked up, was covered in the Wall Street Journal. It was also covered in the Harvard Business Review. It's just a really cool example, and it's a Michigan example. So my goal now as president of SBAM is to try and connect more people with those types of opportunities. So that's not the exception, but that's just what we expect to happen.
And it's worthy work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The experts joining us today are Brian Calley, Carlos Castillo, and Paula Cunningham. It's good to have you all here. Let's get started by getting on the same page and defining what is the underemployed workforce.
There are a lot of people out there that have so much to offer our economy and our businesses and our communities that oftentimes get locked out of opportunity. The way that we hunt for talent, the way that we interview and put people in positions, oftentimes it just overlooks those that have so much to offer. One of the groups that we at SBAM are really starting to focus on are people with disabilities. Now, a person with a disability, just to do the things that you and I would take for granted every day, have to be creative and determined, have to have perseverance, have to innovate in order to do the regular things that the rest of us do in life. And now don't those sound like great qualities that you'd want in your workforce? Determination, perseverance, innovation, creativity. And so that's what we want to do is to help more companies look in new places to fill those talent gaps, because we know today the number one concern of most businesses is finding the right people to fill positions in order to take advantage of all the opportunities that a growing economy has to offer.
It's an excellent point. And Paula, you're with AARP.
Yes.
And there is a tremendous opportunity as well. People are working longer, they are having second careers. Yes. There's really an encore life going on here. From the perspective of the Small Business Association of Michigan, finding and retaining talent is a top issue. So these workforces are gold mines, are real opportunities for growth for owners. What's happening at AARP?
Well, Brian is absolutely correct. The number one issue for small business is finding talent. That's the number one issue. Survey after survey has indicated that. And we know there are a lot of really good people, community folks and others working to build that talent from the K through 20 pipeline, education and building that talent for the skills that are needed for tomorrow. But that's not going to help the small business person today. That's not going to help them immediately. And so there's a wealth of talent out there in our older workers, the 50-plus population, some of who have retired early, got a buyout, had a skill set that employers are looking for today. And they're getting a little tired of being retired, doing what they want to do, and they'd love to be back in the workplace. And whether it's part-time, full-time, a year, 2 years, or 3 years, just to help bridge that gap for a little bit. So ARP started a program called Experience for Hire. We worked with Chris Holman, we worked with the Small Business Association of Michigan, the Chamber, and others to say, is this something that's needed? And they all said emphatically, yes. So what it does is match the skill sets of older workers with the skill sets that a lot of employers are looking for. If you used to be a tool and die engineer at General Motors, and you're looking for a tool and die engineer, you only may need a little tweaking of your skill set to be right back in that workplace again. And so Experience for Hire does that kind of match, and we're very happy to say that the Talent Investment Agency for the state of Michigan and the Michigan Works offices throughout the state have helped us to make this program very successful. And it's great to see, again, research has shown, ARP does more research than just about anybody, but research has shown that older workers in the workplace they have less drama, they come to work, they stay all day, they don't leave, they don't have all the excuses. They're very dependable, and they help the younger folks in terms of mentoring them and helping them with whatever issues that surface. So
Yeah, experience alone
yes.
is important, and
Absolutely.
life experience is important as well.
Absolutely.
Veterans.
Absolutely.
Carlos, you represent a really important and loyal population of people. Let's talk about veterans a little bit.
Yeah, so any veteran, it's important to hire vets. Some of the skill sets that they bring from the military. I mean, you're getting discipline, you're getting loyalty, commitment, you're getting all that into your workforce. It's very important to seek out these veterans and get them on board with your company. Something that I do is I recruit vets for our company at Peckham. Also do a lot of retention efforts, so holding biweekly meetings just to check the temperature of our vets, making sure they have everything they need to be successful.
So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to talk to business owners who have already made the commitment, either on purpose or on accident, but have vets on staff.
Sure.
To know what kind of services they can tell. I mean, that's really a wonderful thing to be able to tell your staff there are services. What's out there for business owners to help their veteran employees?
Sure. So if you, it's important to network with veteran organizations in your community. Yeah, Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, Veterans Affairs, and then you have employment groups such as Invest Vets that help veterans find jobs. It's important to have someone on your staff that can familiarize themselves with what's out there and then bring that into the company.
As an owner, I bring that perspective of I need to hire, what am I thinking about? And I can promise you I have never said, boy, I sure would like to hire a veteran, or I have said someone with a lot of experience, but not necessarily in the way that we're talking about today. And most certainly, I think owners don't say, I have a commitment to the community and I would like to expand my workforce to include people with disabilities as well. Although I actually have done that through Peckham, as a matter of fact, but that's because I have a lot of history in my family with that kind of heart, I guess. My husband has worked in that field a long time. So if I wanted to tap into this workforce, Brian, what would I do?
One thing that we're doing here at the Small Business Association of Michigan is getting involved in helping our companies with developing strategies to be successful in finding and retaining and supporting employees with disabilities. And so we have events and things that are ongoing and being planned and always coming up. But myhiddentalent.com, myhiddentalent.com, is where we've got a lot of great information about how a company can get plugged in. There's a great service network out there as well. Carlos works for Peckham. Peckham is one of the leading agencies in the entire, I'd say probably the leading
Yes.
partner in the state and helping companies be successful in hiring people with disabilities. But the one point I want to make is that I'm not talking about charity here. I'm not talking about doing it because you want to be nice. I'm not talking about doing it because you want to you just want to help another person. I'm talking about finding people that are very talented, that can produce, that can really deliver on what a company needs. And it just looks different than what you might be used to, but it's not less. And in fact, in many cases, employers are finding that it's more, that it's better. You get more loyalty, you get more productivity. Sometimes an accommodation might come with a process improvement that makes it simpler or more efficient. And so the outcome of that is that it makes it simpler and more efficient for everybody in the entire organization. So it really challenges companies to do things better, and it also lifts the culture inside the organization. And other employees, we see this over and over again, other employees in those areas that have people with disabilities that are intentional about being inclusive become more excited about their workplace themselves, that they're a part of something bigger and more important and better.
You know, our founder, Ethel Percy Andrews, had a saying that what we do for one, we do for all. And I take that to heart, and that's 60 years ago that she said that. And that's what we're talking about here. It's not what we do for one, not just the 18 to the 45, but what we do for one, we do for all. And so in terms of access to jobs, veterans, you know, folks with disabilities, and I don't even like the word disabilities. You know, they just have different, we all have challenges. They have
different abilities.
Different abilities. And so we need to keep that in mind when we're hiring. Sometimes we have to wake up employers' eyes in terms of the wealth of talent that's out there. But what we do in terms of hiring, we shouldn't just look at certain populations, but look at everyone in terms of financial security, in terms of what they bring to the workforce. And there's no better example than veterans and folks with disabilities or older workers who've been there.
Yeah, I agree. It's just sometimes as an owner, to be intentional about it is what's going to spread that doing for all. You know?
Absolutely, but now with the economy the way it is, it's actually sort of like a blessing and a curse, because people need workers, and so they are forced to look somewhere else. But they're going to be happy they did. They're going to be very happy that they did look at other populations, because they're forced. They can't find the talent that they need, so they're looking at what they call alternative talent. I call it all talent, but some folks refer to it that way. And so as they're finding these other workers, they're very, very pleased. I mean, again, survey after survey shows that employers love hiring veterans. They love hiring older workers. They love hiring folks who have different abilities.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said. So I not only bring veterans into Peckham. Not all veterans are going to qualify for Peckham, but I don't leave those veterans out there hanging. So what I do is I connect them with agencies that are in the community to help those vets find jobs, find resources, and all that. You're right. There's no veteran should be left alone.
Yes, or left behind. Right.
Left behind. Yep.
That's right.
In order to tap into the veterans workforce, where would I go, Carlos?
So there's a lot of agencies out there that are helping veterans. Lansing alone has Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. They have employment departments. You have Veterans Affairs. One group that I work with closely is called Invest Vets, where they'll blast out the hot jobs to the veteran community. There's probably over 800 veterans on that list where these jobs go to. But the key is to be active, go out there and find these vets. So what I do is I find the hard to reach veterans. You know, I go to peer groups, I go to the homeless veteran community shelters, and I educate folks on, what we do and get them interested in getting back into the workforce. So it's all about being active and getting out there and putting yourself out there and find these veterans.
If I could build on that too. So what Carlos is talking about is being intentional about the work. So if you were to go and talk to employers and human resource directors about this, you would find that they're very open to hiring older people in the workforce, very open to hiring veterans, very, very open to hiring people with disabilities. But if your normal hiring practices, where and how you look, if you don't change that, then your outcomes aren't going to change. And so that's what we're talking about here, is building strategies to intentionally make something happen. So when you do that, you open up a whole new world of opportunity, and it provides a competitive advantage. And this is, I think, something that more and more are finding out all the time, is that when you hire a veteran, for example, that not only has a skill set. Think about somebody who works on light armored vehicles as a mechanic, right? But has had to work on vehicles in some of the most intense type of high pressure situations and still delivered. Now, so take that and put it into regular civilian type work. The skill set is very transferable, but you know that you've got a person who can perform under pressure, a person that really knows how to deliver, is not going to get shaken, and then also on top of that, the loyalty that comes along with it. I mean, there's just so many really powerful arguments for doing it, and yet for whatever reason these things just kind of miss each other. Supply and demand don't get connected as well. So you have to do it on purpose. I mean, to really go out there and make it happen.
Yeah, and the gratitude goes both ways. You find that person, you know, it could be a great connection. They're grateful for the opportunity. You're grateful for the hire. One of the things that we've been talking about on past shows is this idea of part-time or fractional help. I think that's particularly interesting when you talk about people who are 50 plus or 60 plus. Are you seeing a lot of that?
Absolutely. There are some employers who would prefer to hire 2 people for 30 hours a week versus 1 person for 40 hours. And older workers particularly love that because they can still have some flexibility in their schedule or in their time. Many of them don't need the same level of benefits that other folks need because they have other benefits that are available to them. So even the timing, even for young, it's not much different for young people. Some of them want to work from 10 to 7 versus 8 to 5. So we just need to rethink the way that we think about employees if we really want to attract the best talent out there. When we talk to young folks, they're not interested as much in terms of their pay as much as they are interested in terms of flexibility and other, how can I make a contribution? So the intrinsic value of the workplace becomes even more important. And so knowing that you've hired someone with different abilities, that you've hired someone who's a veteran or you've hired an older worker, it's not just about that job, but I mean, they're going to contribute phenomenally. Believe me, they are. But it's also about they're giving back. Older workers love being able to help mentor someone else in the workplace. And Carlos talked about veterans, and ARP does a tremendous amount of work with veterans. We'd love to work with you on that, even their wives and the resources. And you might be familiar with this, Brian, but Michigan used to be at the bottom in terms of the number of veterans who access their resources, their state resources. Thankfully, to a lot of help from Peckham and other folks, they're now closer to and AARP, they're now closer to the middle. But that's a daggone shame. I don't mind saying that we have resources out there for veterans and they're not accessing them because they don't know about them. Right. And after they've served us and they're sitting there, it's like, food on the table and I'm hungry, but I don't know where to go to eat. And so we need to work together as a community, and what we do for one, we do for all, and make certain that everyone has access to jobs, and employers need to. Again, I love them. I used to be a small business owner, but we need to change the way we think about who we hire and what the talent that's out there, because you're missing out.
Most definitely, yeah. What is the pool size here? How many folks with disabilities are we talking? Is it so niche that a company might say, not worth my time, or is this enormous? What are we talking about in terms of capacity?
Many, many people. I mean, this in whether somebody self-identifies that way or not, it's hard to narrow it down. But we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people here, and it's very and also I would also suggest that there's a lot of cross populations too. Veterans that have disabilities, and certainly as there's certain loss of function as you get older. So an older worker might have some disability as well. But but I want to stress that what comes along with it, not just enormous potential workforce, is a lot of experience and innovation and determination, and folks that can take that experience and I'm so glad you brought up mentorship too, because that's one of the hallmarks that we see of successful business cultures are when you have these mentor-mentee relationships, and the other thing I see sometimes that's really cool. We've seen this play out in many different ways. Is in some ways, younger workers can mentor older workers on things that have changed in the workplace, while the older workers can mentor the younger workers on things like balance and priority setting and how to deliver and that sort of thing. So it's a relationship where it's circular, and it's those that find that out and work it into their company culture are having a lot of success.
You know, yesterday I heard that iTunes was going away, and I almost freaked out because I have iTunes. I thought, what am I going to do? And my grandson said, well, don't worry about it. Hook me up with another one. So it goes both ways. You're right. We
Yeah.
can teach each other and learn from each other.
Yeah, it's just expansion. Everything's
Exactly.
expanding. Things
Absolutely.
don't go away anymore, especially when you talk about technology. And younger workers, they're fantastic, but they have their own gaps that have to be managed, right? So as an owner, you know whoever you hire is going to have gaps to manage. Just what is it that matches up with how you're going to grow your business? Any final thoughts? Have we missed anything?
Well, you asked about the pool. There are 1.4 million AARP members in the state of Michigan alone, so that's a pretty hefty pool. I don't know how many of them want to go back to work, but we can find them if they want to.
Yeah, there's quite a significant amount of veterans that are still looking for employment as well. One suggestion that I would like to relay to employers is that hiring veterans just doesn't stop when you give them a job offer.
Good point.
You know, you need to support that you know, after that, to support that veteran, because we come from a culture that's used to
Not having veterans in the culture, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Exactly. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you help us understand what role technology plays for our new employees?
Technology is instrumental to the underemployed workforce. It allows employees to come in and much more efficiently join the workforce in terms of learning the new technologies in place, learning the business structure and integration with module training, as well as being more accessible to their working environment.
So, when you're talking about retirees, give me some examples there.
So retiree example is sometimes bringing in technology with an older generation can be a little bit challenging, and technology now is much more visual and learner user based. It's more hands-on. It's not that old technology of here's some data code. It's now more hands-on, much more efficient and modernized to help that learning curve a little bit.
So, it's not here's the manual, thump it on your desk.
Good luck. No, not at all. It's much more video training and hands-on, and along with being cloud accessible, they can much more quickly just type in a search bar, how do I do this, a standard operating procedure. It's much more easy to find those how-tos.
Let's talk about people with mobility issues.
Yes. So with technology, you're able to work from anywhere. So you can work from home, you can work from a facility, you can work in any type of comfort environment that's best conducive to you. And you have all of the same resources. It's as if you're never leaving the office.
Yeah, and I would think that there'd be some of that comfort as well with veterans in both instances.
Absolutely. That all comes down to the modern workplace. If you're able to use technology anywhere and access all of your company data from any location, you incorporate every demographic.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Focus on Tech, brought to you by Providence, making technology easier.
So, as the CEO of a bank, you must have seen a lot of business expansions.
We have. We've seen a lot of them. It's a great economy right now, and there's just a tremendous number of businesses looking to expand and grow their businesses right now.
And we're talking today about expanding with underemployed employees. So that workforce of veterans, retirees, folks with disabilities. But it all still means money. You've got to get money to do an expansion. What should we be looking for when we're shopping for a bank?
Small business owners should really look for an institution where the person they're talking with really wants to learn about their business specifically, and that they're interested in learning about what their business needs are and how their business operates. If a local banker is able to do that for them, then they're going to find out that they have the best deposit accounts and the most appropriate loans for what they're trying to accomplish in their business, as opposed to an institution that just has one or two products and they're trying to force them into a specific product offering. A local bank is much more likely to be able to give you something customized.
Well, that sounds like a lot to know. How What kind of resources do banks offer for supporting that kind of learning curve?
Well, what they really have is a lot of people who are vested in right there in the community, and probably know many different other business owners who are facing the exact same issues that whoever they're talking to is also facing, and they can talk to them about what those business owners have done to overcome those challenges. And one of the other things that local banks offer is, because they work in so many with so many different industries, they'll be able to provide referrals to appropriate accountants or real estate agents, contractors for people who are doing expansions. Their local banks are really a wealth of knowledge for small businesses.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Focus on Banking, brought to you by Michigan Bankers Association.
Denise, are there any special considerations when hiring a retiree or a veteran or someone with a disability?
Sure. So, you're talking generally about the underemployed workforce, which employers are looking to more because unemployment is so low. They are employees just like everybody else and fantastic workers, so that's great. But you need to know that with a lot of folks who are, like for example, a retiree, you're going to have somebody that's over 40. So they're going to have special protections under the law, for example, against age discrimination. Somebody with a disability is going to be protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act and the state law that's the companion legislation to that. So an employee will have special benefits, not necessarily benefits, but protections. So for example, a disabled employee will have accommodations that the employer will need to consider and give. So that could be additional finances. You also need to be aware that you have rights as an employer. So getting all of that out in an employee handbook, having the employees and all of your employees, not just your underemployed workforce, but all employees, signing an employee handbook and an at-will statement the day that they are hired is very, very important to do, so that you have the flexibility to make sure that you can not only fire them if you need to, but only for the right reasons. So underemployed workforce means potentially additional considerations that you just need to pay attention to.
So underemployed, really everybody wants to be treated fairly.
Right.
Business owners want fair rules as well. Everyone is subject to the same kind of rules of termination.
Correct. Correct. I mean, the most underemployed workers don't want special treatment. They just want equal treatment. Correct. So they can be fired just like anybody else as long as it's not for the protection. So you can't fire a retiree because they're old, right? So they want to be treated like anybody else. An employer just needs to know that they have responsibilities and the employee has rights.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Focus on Law, brought to you by Policella and Associates, PLLC.
Thank you for joining us as we explore hiring a workforce faced with their own unique challenges, but they also offer the skill sets of loyalty, creativity, and dedication. These people could be the answer to successfully power your organization's growth in this tight labor market.